Okay, so without further ado, first of all, yes, good morning, and thank you guys for coming out here. Good afternoon, right? It's like 12:05 already. We'll be starting the presentation on StateCal, which stands for the State Aligned Technology Outreach Program, and how you can receive free technical and product design assistance. I'm Samantha Morales. This here is Rudy Hassan. And online we have Marcela Barton, and we'll be presenting this presentation for you guys. Okay, we'll talk about why SATOP exists, what SATOP is, how it works, and some success stories we have. And at any point, if you guys have any questions, feel free to interrupt us. And whether online or in person, or online, if you guys want to write it in the chat, please. Okay, now passing it on to Ms. Marcela.
Hi, everyone. Thank you all for being here today. I am a project specialist for the Space Science Technology Outreach Program. I'll just be referring to it as SATOP from here on out. It's a very long name. So essentially, SATOP was created back in established back in 1999. So we've been around 25, 26 years. We are funded by the state of Texas. So essentially, we help small businesses, entrepreneurs, startups, anyone who is trying to bring a new product to the market, but they're encountering technical challenges that they don't necessarily have the engineering background or knowledge to solve on their own. What we do is we facilitate the exchange of the expertise of volunteer engineers or senior engineering students, and they will work on your challenges that you're facing. And then in turn, this helps you few steps closer to taking your product to the market, which also in turn helps drive the economic growth in Texas. And then down the line, if you end up hiring a few people or 100 people, you're also helping bring more jobs to the state. So that's like our overall goal of the program, is just driving the economic growth and making Texas as strong as it can be. So we do have two avenues of the program. We have our 40-hour technical assistance program, and then we also have a university capstone design program. So for the 40-hour program, this is normally for challenges that are a little smaller scale. So it could be like maybe you need a material recommendation for a specific aspect of your product. So if once we meet with you and determine that this your challenge is something that we can work on and help you with, we match you up with a volunteer engineer from one of our alliance partners. It really just depends on who is the best fit for your challenge. And then that engineer will spend up to 40 hours working on your challenges and solving them at no cost to you. And then throughout both of these programs, someone from SATOP will oversee the project just to make sure that everything's going okay. And if any problems arise, we're there to help you on both sides. And then the University Capstone Design Program, we are partnered with 5 universities, Sam Houston State, Texas A&M, College Station, and Galveston. University of Houston, Clear Lake, and then Texas State University. So each of them, they have a engineering capstone design program. So if you come to us with your project and you're kind of facing like a lot of big challenges that we think is an appropriate fit for the capstone program, what we do is we submit a proposal of your project to whichever university is best suited for it. And then from there, if the university decides to accept the project, they'll determine which engineering department is the best fit for your project. And then they will have a team of between like 3 to 6 senior engineering students who will spend either 1 or 2 semesters working on your project. So 1 semester projects are typically just like very intensive design work, and that varies department depending on whichever engineering department it goes to. And then we also have the 2 semester project where the students will work on the first semester, they will work on designing solutions with you. And then the second semester, they will build an academic prototype. The one thing to note, though, is the prototype is not, you will receive it at the end of the project. It's not something that's ready to go directly to the market, but it is something that you can work off of and add whatever you need to, and will just help you with, be multiple steps ahead without spending a fortune on a prototype. And then ownership of all of the designs, the intellectual property, data, prototypes will remain with you, the requester. So SATOP is able to accept all kinds of challenges. We have a whole list here and many more. We're able to help with mechanical design, electronics, printed circuit boards, fluid dynamics, material selection. We do get quite a few material selection or recommendation projects in the 40-hour program. Oh, and to note, we do not accept information technology challenges. So what I mean by that is just like if you're trying to build like a website or you're trying to build an app and there's no physical product tied to it, unfortunately, we're not able to help with that because that's directly competing with services or companies that offer those services. But if it oh, sorry, go ahead, Samantha.
I was just gonna say, I would also like to add, like Marcela was saying, this is just the list. Really, any engineering discipline you can think of, and almost any kind of challenge that can fit into that engineering discipline, we can help with. All right. So with that said, you might be wondering, well, then how do I know if I'm eligible for this program? So there is a list of 5 things you need to fit under. First one being you do need to be based in Texas, as this is a state-funded program. Second one is you need to be an entrepreneur, a startup, or a small business, as in you have 500 or less employees. If you're not legally filed or structured, that's fine, but we do recommend that you at least have a DBA. Number 3 is that you're able to articulate a distinct and identifiable technical problem, meaning your engineering problem, right? Don't worry too much about this one because the SATOP team and myself can definitely help you establish that. Number 4 is that you've been unable to solve your challenge independently, meaning that you've tried everything at your disposal, but you just cannot figure out the solution. And number 5, your product or service this is not the same as anything that is already out there available. As in, it's okay if it's similar to something else, but yours has to either be more efficient or work in a completely different way. Any questions on that? No, okay. And then, so you might be wondering, how do we execute these 2 programs, right? The 40 hours and then the capstone, and we do that through partnerships out of the world, which we also call alliance partners. We have 3 bullet points. We have the NASA Johnson Space Center and engineering firms and contractors. So these 2 are usually the ones that will be conducting the 40-hour services. And then, of course, like Marcela mentioned, we have 5 academic institutions. You can see toward the bottom those 5 universities we've partnered with. So through this extensive network, we make sure that whatever your problem, your challenge is, we pair you up with the correct partner so it can be solved. And then I'm going to talk briefly kind of about how the process works and how you can qualify, how we work through the process. So of course, we advertise, we build awareness, such as having events like this. Then either yourself or somebody you may know apply for it. What that applying means though for the first phase is you submit a request for inquiry. Kind of, it's just really basic information, really just your contact information and a basic idea of what your problem is. Then after that, the SATOP team behind the scenes looks at it, determines if it's a good fit. Let's assume it is. Then they have to determine which of the 2 programs they think you might fit into. After that, they reach out to you to try and schedule a meeting. Again, this meeting is just to further understand your obstacles, your idea, and make sure that either one of the programs can be able to be a fit for you and if you're willing to move forward, right? After that's established, then you submit a formal request. After you submit this formal request, we shared said request with our AP, again, our partner network. And as soon as somebody picks it up, the SATOP team connects you with a partner. And then from then on, we set up recurring meetings just to make sure that everything is going smoothly. At this point, it wouldn't be with myself. It would be with somebody from SATOP, such as Marcela. However, if your project for whatever reason is out of scope, such as, it's not feasible, it's just not something we can help you with, we do refer you to maybe other partners or other networks that, we think may be of a better fit for you. And now we'll talk about some success stories.
So this is Indigo Effect. They're a startup in Houston, and they came to us needing help with developing computer hardware for their virtual reality cloud environment that's intended for therapeutic applications. So we connected them to Texas A&M University's capstone program. It was accepted into the computer science and computer engineering department, and the senior engineering student team, they built a VR cloud environment, and they were able to drastically cut the cost down while also maintaining a high quality simulation. And then at the end of each semester at Texas A&M, they do hold a showcase and have all the teams like compete and stuff. So this team actually won first in a competition against 109 other projects, and they also secured the Health Sector Award in the fall 2023 Virtual Project Showcase. And then this is another example of a capstone project that we worked on. So this startup also came to us needing help obtaining and creating a precise and realistic like test rig so that they could test their body armor, which is called Ogre Skin, that incorporates novel energy and with distribution architecture. So we submitted their project to Texas A&M, and it was accepted into the mechanical engineering department. And the students developed a test rig with advanced sensors, data capture, and then when they had their showcase, they earned third place amongst 300 other teams. And then at the end of the project, the startup was able to pick up the prototype, and now they're able to safely test and iterate body armor architecture. And then I know I mentioned it earlier, but SATOP, as we're funded by the state, we do cover all of the costs associated with both programs. So we pay for the capstone project, and we pay the volunteer engineers in the 40-hour program. So there's no hidden fees, nothing coming out of your pockets. This is just to help grow the small business community across the entire state. And then it's not listed on here, but I did want to give an example of a 40-hour project. We do have more stories on our website as well if you're interested. But this one was it was a handle cover for medical carts. This entrepreneur came to us wanting to, she needed material recommendations for the handle cover. And so we connected her to a retired New Mexico State University professor, Dr. Yu Ping, and he was able to, with his research, he helped identify an optimal plastic film material that was biodegradable and disposable. And then he also helped her identify cost-efficient manufacturers, or rather connected her to cost-efficient manufacturers that she could work with if she was interested in doing so. So that's just like a 40-hour example. We have other ones. We have a lot of great ones currently, but they're still in progress, and we never disclose information about a project unless like the vague information of what it is overall, unless we have permission from the person. So and then I did want to just also mention, because we get asked about this a lot, which is very understandable, intellectual property. So SATOP, we have an agreement in place with the state of Texas since we're funded by the state. Basically, essentially, anyone who works under SATOP will not disclose of any information about any projects, even if it's not a project and you just come to us. after you submit an inquiry on our website and you have like an initial meeting. Even if nothing comes from that, or you change your mind or you don't want help anymore, we still never disclose any information. And then if you have a project with us, we only talk about it for research purposes with our alliance partners, the ones that we think would be interested in working on it. And then even after your project is done and has been done for a long time, unless you gave us permission to have like a brief overall description of your project in a like a success story, if you did not give us permission for it, then like your information will never be released anywhere. And then as for NDAs and IP exclusion agreements, our university capstone program, if you are interested in having those agreements in place with the students, we do notify the faculty lead prior to the project even starting. So the faculty lead will know to tell all of the students that they can only work on this specific project if they agree to signing these documents. And then for the 40-hour project, for 40-hour projects, we have agreements in place with each alliance partner, a memorandum of agreement, which also states the same thing, that the organization and the volunteer engineer is not allowed to disclose of any information unless it is for research purposes. And then they also have no rights to any IP if it's created throughout the project. And then if you still are interested in having an NDA signed between a volunteer engineer and yourself, you will have to do that directly with them. SATOP will not be able to facilitate that.
Okay, we're almost done, I promise. So overall, just to conclude, there are benefits to joining SATOP. First and foremost, of course, it's free. It's a state-funded program. You get assistance. Second of all, you get help with solving a technical issue. You're getting a solution, right? And third, most of the time, if not always, you get a product development, or like Marcela mentioned earlier, some type of working or established prototype. And then fourth is you get access to subject matter experts and local expertise, as in all these partners, all these alliance partners, they're working in leading industries like aerospace, or they've been working on set engineering discipline for a really long time, so they know what they're doing. And last but not least, we're here to help you get one step closer to whatever your final step is, whatever success is for you. So as soon as we provide the solution, go have fun and roll with it. Oh, go ahead.
To what fidelity level is there how large can the scope be as far as fidelity level? Does it have to can that prototype working prototype? Or can it descend beyond prototype and it go into the DFMA of it, so that we can use maybe some manufacturing methods that may not be the most cost effective for mass production? But just a one-off, just utilizing like Texas A&M's manufacturing. Like, is there like a budget limit per project on how much of their machine time we can use, how much materials of them we can use for a prototype?
Okay, let's see if Marcela, did you hear that question?
I was able to hear like bits and pieces. I'm not sure I understand. Like
So the question was, to what extent is the scope of the project? So for example, let's say he goes into the capstone program, he gets teamed up with Texas A&M. To what extent can he use like their manufacturing facilities and things like that? Is that right, more or less?
Yeah, I just started to how much of a final product are we able to get out of it?
So how much of a final product will we be able to get out of it? Let's say we're shooting for like a prototype, or that's being worked on.
Okay, so it varies project to project because each one is just so different. Because we're not limited to just like products in the like engineering field, if that makes, like, we have projects that range in all kinds of industries like beauty, medical, transportation. So it really just depends, but you will get a academic project out of it. So since it varies by the project, when we determined that your challenges and product are a good fit for the capstone program, our technical specialist, Alyssa, she writes up a proposal and then narrows the scope and works closely with you to make sure it's all accurate. And so whatever that scope is, that would be what you'll receive in a prototype, if that makes sense. As far as being able to use their facilities after the project is over, I am not entirely sure about that. We've never really had that before.
And then I can elaborate on that part. So really after, whatever they determine the scope to be within the project, as soon as that's completed, they close out the project. You can apply again with the same, let's say, product, but not the same issue, right? As far as manufacturing and all that stuff, aside from SATOP, BCIC can help you maybe with TMAC. We are also opening up a prototyping lab here, so we can help facilitate that as much as we can, but it's not necessarily part of the SATOP program.
Right. I was really more asking those about beyond proof of concepts.
Fair. Yeah. Any other questions?
I knew apply.
How do you apply? So if you go to this link or you scan the QR code, www.satop.space, up at the top, you'll find a tab that says request. You click it, and then a form comes out, and you just have to fill it out.
And this is a new program.
For the region yet.
It is so the history of it is it was initially a program to get NASA space checks into the economy and tectonics into the economy. It was initially in the Houston area, and thanks to the work of the local state rep from there, his name escapes me. The Texas Ledge approved the program to be expanded to the entire state of Texas. I was there. It's the first year that is.
Now you're talking about Soltex, right? Do we already have like a prototype? We just want to expand it a little bit. Maybe it's better. Do they also do that?
Yes, honestly, like whatever is that improvement, if you already have a prototype working, it's even better because it facilitates their end. They just, okay, I want to make this electronic part go easier, find a different material, something like that. That's quite literally what this program is for. Any other questions? That's a reply. Well, if you guys have any questions, you have Marcela's and my contact information there. We can also share Rudy's. We can help you guys fill out the application itself, or if you just have any more questions, you want more details, you want a one-on-one meeting, we can also facilitate that. I didn't mention this, but if you yourself or you know of somebody who's interested in becoming an alliance partner, so that engineering aspect, whether it be a firm, a subcontractor, or even an individual, you can also reach out to me or to Rudy or to Marcela, and maybe we can set up some type of meeting to see if that's a potential fit.
That is a really excellent way to get back. I know a lot of engineers, both individually and as part of their teams, like to do things like this, and this is a pretty nice structured, trusted way to get that.
You said alliance with a person. What do you mean alliance?
The alliance partners are the network of engineers that volunteer to give some hours to the program.
Also, like that 40 hours is the alliance.
And just to clarify online, the alliance partners, as Brittany was mentioning, are a network of engineers and other institutions, entities that help solve these problems.
Also, I also want to mention, there's some familiar cases here, and there's some faces I've never seen. If you have literally any questions about eBridge or BCIC, what the heck do you do BCIC? Come to me. I'm more than happy to answer.
How big can a project be?
There is really no limit, but let me just clarify. Marcela, the question is, how big can a project be?
It really varies. If it's the 40-hour, even if you have multiple challenges, we might only be able to solve one or two at a time, but you're still more than welcome to keep receiving help. We just have to open it as a new project each time. But for capstones, it just depends. Because because you might be able to focus on multiple aspects or solve multiple aspects of your challenge if it's like a bunch of mechanical engineering challenges. But if it's something where it's like mechanical and electrical, you might not get to both at the same time, but it just varies and depends on the product. But we try to help as like with as much of what your challenges are as possible. So sometimes it might be all at once, and then sometimes it might just have to be a few phases before everything's solved. Mhm.
Any other questions? Online, any questions?
And there, like, price.
Price. So this is free. There is no cost to it. So like Marcela said, if you went through one of the programs, which one, and you want to apply again, by all means, just I'll be right there. Just as I stated earlier, as long as you're not applying with the same problem, we can definitely try and help you and guide you through one of the programs again.
So if we have a product, right, we submit it, they help us to actually we also like we want to make it medically approved. Do you help with that as well on that prototype?
With parenting and legal, we don't, as in SATOP doesn't, but BCIC along with UTRW does have resources for that.
Will it make it, will like if the prototype had to be made sure it meets all those compliance guy in it? That's what I'm like about prototype.
Oh, okay. Let me refer to Marcela pages.
In the early, has everybody done something that on a prototype you want to be compliant?
Okay.
I'm not so sure.
So the question, Marcela, was in terms of development, how much consideration does AP go consider or put into compliance? For example, in this case, they kind of want to make sure it follows the regulations of a medical care, right? Because it's in the healthcare. I don't know if I articulated correctly.
Okay, I understand. So depending on what it is, we not myself but Lissa, because she has a PhD in material science, so she's like very knowledgeable and has a lot of good background knowledge. And so she determines with our program manager which alliance partners would be the best fit for your product and challenges you're facing. So that's what we would kind of do. If that makes sense. Because we have different ones that all kind of specialize. Not all of the companies we're partnered with specialize in like everything across the board. They might specialize in just certain parts of the engineering skills, if that makes sense.
So would that require like literally going to one place in the phone, would that one to another, or is it just you have to go through one and that's it?
You know about like the semi-fluctuate.
Yeah, like I say, you're trying to something, but at the same time you want to make sure it goes through the devices. You can go from one space to another.
So his question was, in terms of partners, then would you have more than one if this was the case? Or would it just be one partner? One alliance?
It would just be one partner, just one engineer. And we've had situations where a volunteer engineer was only able to solve like one aspect of the challenge. And so then what we did was we completed that, and then we sent out the remaining parts that still needed to be solved out to some other contenders, and then we continued on. We just started like a new project per se, but it was the same project. And then those the next volunteer engineer from a different organization helped solve the rest of the stuff.
So it's a lot like building blocks, right? But they'll definitely help you build the law line. Oh yeah. Any other questions? Yes.
Did they also help you with 3D modeling or like drawings of the product or like whatever you put in?
That's a good question because I actually get it a lot. So Marcela, the question was, can they help with 3D modelings or like scans and drawings and things like that?
Yes, we've had some projects where they needed help with the design improvements. They knew what they wanted it to accomplish, but they didn't know how. So we had a one, I think it's an individual consultant who's an engineer, and he worked on the project for up to 40 hours, and he provided CAD design drawings.
So now,
Not, oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just gonna add, and also consider that you do have to fit into those eligibility guidelines. Specifically, the last one, there must not be something out there in the market that is the same, right? Or if there is, yours has to work completely different or be more efficient. You were gonna add, Marcela?
Oh, yes. So they're not going to necessarily like 3D print it for you. It depends on the partner. Not all of them have that capability. But some of them or most of them could at least provide like the CAD drawings. And then we do have, like Samantha said, like there's incubator spaces, prototyping labs, and then they can also help like find prototyping labs for you, or anyone who could create at least like a few basic beginner prototypes for you to work off of.
We even have some spaces here in the region in Nevada. So that's fun. Any other questions? Yet.
Maybe the same question. Here's the name of your project. There's something for first. The tough step is to choose a material, and then how you're gonna cure it and develop the furnace to do that. Then the second phase will be how to put the parts in the right location, so then you can use that material and then cure it. Is that a two-step process? Can after finishing one, I can come with the other, or
So I'm gonna ask you to study, but then I'll also let Marcela tackle it. It depends. So let's say you go to a capstone, maybe they can work on that in one semester. They do the first part, and the second semester they do another one. But then I'll let Marcela take it. So kind of referring back to the timeline and the span and scope of the project. For example, he said the first part is to determine the material, and then the second part would be to determine kind of the structure and how the components fit together. Would that be one program, one project, or would that need to be cut up into different projects?
It I know I keep saying this, but it really just it depends on the project. Because sometimes they come to us and we're like, oh, okay, like this is just like a tiny little, like, oh, you just need one material recommendation for something that can be found really fast, and then you need help with this, and this. So we'll kind of throw them all in together, and then some projects we have the volunteer engineer takes it on, and they might accomplish 2 or 3 out of the 4, challenges we listed. So it really just depends. Sometimes you don't need multiple projects, and then sometimes we have to kind of open new. It's the same thing project, but we have to open what we call a new like RTA. And that happens too because sometimes the engineer might max out already at 40 hours. And if they're still interested in working on it, we'll just open it a new 40-hour so they can keep continuing on, but still get compensated. Or they might not be able to, work on that next challenge. It's beyond what they're capable of. So we close it out, open a new one, and then have a different organization work on it. So I hate to say that, but it really just depends on each project. So you would have to meet with Alyssa, and then she would help determine what the right path forward is for your project.
So with that said, that's why it's important to just submit the inquiry first, and then that's why you meet with the team. Because then that's how they determine, okay, either it's a 40-hour, it's capstone, let's figure out what the scope is. And then from there, you have to meet again to ensure that we get the best partner for you and how much they can work out and things like that. But like you said, you can always come back to it, revisit it, and figure out if there's another step missing that you would like to add a solution for. Anything else? No? Any online?
I did forget to mention the university capstone program. We are limited to their timeline. So, for example, we've had people come to us and with their project, and we determine, okay, you're a good fit for the capstone program, but it's like they come in May, so we can't. Their project, if it gets accepted by the university, wouldn't start until end of August. It wouldn't start till fall. So that's what I kind of mean when I say we're limited to the university's timeline. Or if you come to us in like October, November, it's too late to get you into the fall semester, but your project could start or would start in spring, in the end of January. So just to keep that in mind if your project were to go into the capstone program.
Any questions online?
There was the application. How? What's the turnaround thing?
After you submit this inquiry, this first step, it's about 2 business days. And then we can, yeah. Anything else? I think that's it, guys. Well, thank you so much for coming, whether online or in person. And like you mentioned, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to myself, Marcella, anybody on the screen, or Rudy as well. Thank you, guys. You guys are free to go. Thank you, online. Bye-bye. Thank you, Marcela.
Thank you.
Bye.